most of the time? What is your day job?
My day job, well, I retired from active medicine when I turned 60 to focus on this. And seriously, I've been completely immersed in the music of the fantasy, but also the bigger picture is Alan the Musical, which we are creating. We've had a stage reading at UCLA in April of this year, and we have recorded 15 songs already at Abbey Road, that has been mastered at Sterling Sounds in New Jersey with Greg Calby. So we've been really, really busy with the music.
So you've stepped away from being a robotic surgeon?
Yes, I have.
Stepped away from transplantation of robotics. But what's fascinating is the way that has then, in all of that training, all of that expertise, is now fueling like a whole other artistic endeavor. Right. So explain the fantasy of companionship for piano and orchestra.
Right. So the fantasy of companionship for piano and orchestra is about companionship, a partnership between human and inanimate, life and non-life. And you know what's incredible, what's been driving this is the confluence of two forces facing us today in society: longevity and loneliness on the one hand, and a barrage of new disruptive technologies on the other. And this is giving rise to a whole new breed of companions, synthetic life forms, and embodied AI systems. And these intelligent inanimates have a level of sophistication that approaches and may even exceed human intelligence. So the important thing here is what is life and what is not life. It's a domain of science that no longer belongs to the confines of my field, medicine.
So that's science and philosophy and religion and everything.
That's right. It's a global conversation, and we need to bring artists, musicians, philosophers, sociologists, you name it. And what better way to communicate this than through music?
So when you say an intelligent inanimate, do you mean, is that a robot?
It's a robot. It's also like Siri, you know, it's really anything that uses AI.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that today, the scary thing a little bit is that the new sciences is portrayed a little bit in tin foil. Everything is metal, and that's scary. And so the concept behind the musical that I'm producing is to have a plush inanimate enabled with new technology, with artificial intelligence, with synthetic DNA, and with robotics to be a companion of the future.
What would that look like? What would that feel like? So if I am on my own and I come back to my house,
Yes.
what are you suggesting I might have waiting?
You might have something very friendly, something very cuddly, something that would understand what you like, your movements, your habits, greet you, would sit quietly if you didn't want a conversation, but otherwise would participate in the conversation. You know, there are restaurant chains today in, for example, in China, that if you were to go alone to a restaurant, they very quietly put a teddy bear opposite to you. And I don't know, I haven't been into those restaurant chains myself, but it creates a sense of warmth.
So, and this intelligent inanimate that I've come home to that will do all those things that you just mentioned, what would it look like? When you say it's cuddly, would it look like a human? Would it look like a dog?
I think it's wrong to make it look like a human. And so it could look like anything you wanted to. If you wanted it to look tinny and metallic like a robot, it would be. And as you know, there is a robot, Sophia, the first humanoid robot that was conferred citizenship to kingdom. So it's where we are. But to me, I would like it to be plushy and soft and cuddly and warm. Because as we're getting older and we're addressing loneliness in society, the last thing we want is something hard.
It's funny because there are so many big, important issues which are discussed at length in newspapers, in magazines, and on the radio and on television, but loneliness hardly ever comes up.
Exactly. But it's a big topic, and it's why I've chosen to focus on it, and I've chosen to focus on companionship, because, like you said, it's something that is quietly dismissed or dealt with, and I think it's an important topic.
So this recording, which is taking place at Abbey Road, tell us about your pianist. We're going to play some Ted Josselson now, playing some Tchaikovsky, but just explain how you got involved.
The most thrilling thing about dream, this fantasy, was to be able to pull Ted Josephson out of retirement, because he's been in retirement for some 15 to 20 years. And really, I first approached Ted when I was in Rye, a very small historic town in upstate New York. And I remember sitting with him over lunch in a French restaurant, like Planetier, very elegant in a historic home. And I thought, oh, this is my only chance. So I put my set of AirPods next to his silver fork. And I said, Ted, would you listen to some of my music? Look on his face, he was just aghast at the thought of disrupting the elegance of the whole ambience. But subsequently he
putting on headphones in a rain.
Yeah, well, earpods. But subsequently he did learn about the science and the music. So much so that he decided to come out of retirement, return to the studio, and record.
Okay, we'll hear some of his playing now, and then we'll talk more with Dr. Susan Lim. Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1, the third movement, Ted Josephson at the piano, and with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And my guest, Dr. Susan Lim, was just telling the story about how you're at dinner with Ted, and he's got his cutlery, and you've got your earbuds, and you put your earbuds in front of him to try and persuade him to be a part of the project. And does he put your headphones in his ears?
He thinks for a moment.
Yes.
But he's very polite. And he did subsequently, yes.
Okay, and what does he hear when he puts them in?
He heard teleportation, which is the last act of the fantasy. And I think he was moved by it, because there's a lot of science in that.
Okay, how long is the piece? How long does he have his headphones in for?
He has it for about 3.5 minutes.
Okay, and then he takes them out?
He takes them out.
What
And
did
he
say?
continues with dinner like nothing has happened. Because after all, he is in a very elegant ambience.
So you must be thinking,
He must have thought I was a nutcase. I didn't want to say anything much else.
And
then he came back to me a couple of weeks later, and he said, Susan, I've decided to come out of retirement. And that was so profound for me, because it's been 15 to 20 years he's retired. And he said, I shall return to the studio and record the fantasy. And over the months that I've been with Ted, I've been with him practicing the fantasy for the last 6 months, 3 times a week. And what I found is striking similarity between a solo pianist and a surgeon is the absolute diligence of focus, concentration, and practice, but also the deftness of the fingers and the precision of execution. And the last thing, which was fascinating, is that both of us are, at the end of the day, soloists but team players. We're dependent on the team, and an orchestra means a surgical team for successful execution of the task. So I learned a lot.
when we finally hear this recording, which is being rehearsed now and is going to be recorded over the next couple of days, when we sit down and listen to Fantasy of Companionship by Piano and Orchestra, can you describe the music that we're going to hear?
Yes. So it's really music for cinema. That's the classification that we've given it. It's broken out into 6 acts over 30 minutes. And each act really tells a story. Each act derives inspiration from the 15 original songs composed for Alan the Musical. And because the composers are all from different origins, so there is a flavor of some cross-ethnic culture. And I think that would be very interesting. But the crux of the matter is that there is a lot of science in fantasy. And I would like for the audience to be able to pick out that the fact that the music of the fantasy has the DNA code, the code of life of the inanimate embedded in the music. And the code of life comprises 3 out of 4 simple alphabets, A, B, G, and C. And strung together they form the genetic code, which is expressed musically as melodies and harmonies. And a little bit like the Rachmaninoff right at the end, it is harmonized in bars 60 and 61, the last 2 bars, for the genetic code. And I think it culminates in a very triumphant, jubilant, and riveting cadenza. and I really hope that that can be appreciated.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing that next year, and I hope the recording goes fantastically over the next few days. The Rachmaninoff you're referring to, is that the piano concerto that you've asked us to play right now? Okay, well, we're going to finish with that, and just, I could talk to you forever, but just on the importance of classical music in your life, and as you are in an operating theatre, and the impact that I think it has.
So, the type of surgery I have been doing all my life, 35 years as a surgeon, is more complex: robotic surgery, transplantation, trauma, and this involves a large team and many hours of surgery. And whilst it is very interesting and exciting and a lot of focus demanded of the surgeon, but you know, there's so many other team members, and the operating room can be filled with 10 or 12 participants, each one crucial. And I've always felt it was very important to play music, and light classical music, to really calm everybody down, to keep the ambiance, to keep the interest and the flow. And so it's been a part of my life.
Well, we'll play the Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto now at your suggestion, with all your words ringing in our ears, and we'll look out for the Fantasy of Companionship of Piano and Orchestra when it comes out next year, and live performances.
Yes, we're hoping very much to have a live performance just before the proms.
Wow. Dr. Susan Lim, fantastic to meet you.
Thank you so much, Simon.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.